Hello, everyone, and Shabbat Shalom, and welcome to this Creative High Growth session. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm Peleg Top. I'm your guide and your mentor for today. And before we get started, I'd like to ask for your attention in just going over a few housekeeping points that I'd like you to agree to so that our time together may be most fruitful. So, this session is an invitation for you to, and an opportunity for you to slow down a bit, to find a quiet space inside yourself, be fully present. There's a quote that I recently heard that says, "Tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn." So this session is about getting you involved in doing this creative high growth work. This is a working session. If you're not able to give this session 100% of your full attention right now and fully participate, I encourage you, if you can, let go of anything else that you might be doing right now that is hijacking your attention and show up fully for yourself. This session is less of a presentation and more of a working time where I will guide you to reflect and inquire about your life. And I'll coach you along the way so that you can gain a new perspective on where you are in your life right now, in your journey. We're going to run straight through the program. We won't be taking breaks, so please manage yourself accordingly if you need to. Um, Also, once again, turn your camera on and keep it on. If you have it off, I encourage you to overcome whatever it is that's making you erase yourself from the room and show up fully and engage. I like to see the people that I coach. Hello, Joanne. Welcome back. Okay, have a journal book, notebook ready. We're gonna do some writing. Hopefully, you have a candle to light. And if you're new to this community, well, welcome. And if you are a returning student, welcome back. And thank you for organizing your life to devote time and attention to your inner world, to your emotional world, to your creative world, and to your spiritual world. I hold these gatherings because I believe in the power of community. Something magical happens when we gather a community for the sake of supporting each other. And a community can be a fuel for creative growth, for personal growth. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. And if you want to go far, go together. And what I've learned is that by being in community, especially inside this work, it has the power to create a certain level of certain kind of synergy that inspires us, it motivates us, and amplifies our potential um, as if we were just on our own. So this is a beautiful community of extraordinary creatives, of powerful thinkers, unique artists, and gifted teachers and coaches. In one way or another, each each of us in this room is a light worker. You are here to better yourself so that you can take your power, your love, your creativity out into the world and make a bigger difference. So my hope for you for today is that you leave this session feeling more connected to yourself, that you feel a sense of belonging, and that you take whatever touches you in your heart and pay it forward, teach it to others. So thanks again for creating this time for yourself, for being here, for doing this work. I wholeheartedly believe in the words of Gandhi, who said, "Be the change you want to be, to see in the world." It starts with you. It starts with me. And this work that we're doing today on ourselves has a ripple effect. You will be touching many other lives by doing this work. So your external world is a direct reflection of your inner world. That's one of my beliefs, my foundational beliefs in life. So if you want to see your external world begin to change for the better, start looking at yourself, start working on yourself, because that will be the best strategy to create the life experience that you truly desire. What I know for sure is that the more of us that do this inner work, the bigger the ripple effect we create in activating love in the world. So, in today's session, we're going to focus on navigating through life's transitions with clarity and confidence. This was a really popular topic. Um, my intention for this session is to focus less about your future and more about your present. You know, when we meet ourselves in a season of change, we oftentimes get a bit obsessed with overthinking the future. Can anybody relate to that? Yeah. We overthink. And the more we overthink, we allow fear to be a partner and a consultant in our thinking. And the more we listen to our fears, the more we tend to believe them. And the more we tend to meet ourselves feeling stuck for longer than we would like to, in a place that feels just too hard to move from. What we tend to forget is that our heart also has a say. We give our fears so much room in our head that we get busy managing these fears so much and spending so much of our time in our head that we forget that our heart is a powerful source of intelligence and guidance. It's where our love lives. And love is a powerful source and force of creation. We all go through transition. This is a normal part of life. We all have different seasons, but we haven't really learned how to manage transition as gratefully as Mother Nature does. So today is about helping you connect to where you are right now in your season of change, to honor this season, to learn from it, to open yourself up to allowing your natural rhythm to usher you through the seasons of your life. So, what's in store for us in this session, the next couple hours? As I mentioned earlier, this is a working session, which means that I will have some guided exercise for you to do to help you understand yourself better and to help you gain a new perspective on your journey. We'll have breakout rooms, but we have an opportunity to connect with someone from this community and share. This is a powerful opportunity to practice vulnerability, practice intimacy with someone who will most likely be a total stranger, someone who is a clean slate, someone who knows nothing about you, who has no preconceived judgments, someone who can simply witness you, possibly give you a fresh perspective. You can be the same person for someone else. You can hold space, witness, and experience this magic that happens when we have a real human connection. Okay, what else? So I've invited two of my students, two of the graduates of the Creative High Growth program, who are now also part of my Creative High Growth team, to share from their personal experience on navigating through their own transitions. They have been in a transitional space since I've met them. And I wanted you to hear from them a little bit about what they're doing, how they're managing that process. And then we'll close the session with some time for community response, for Q&A, reflections, questions. And at that time, I'll also take a few minutes to tell you about our upcoming program, the Creative High Growth Process that kicks off April 20th. Our cohort is coming together now. It's a very exciting time. So if you've been to one of my Creative High Growth sessions before, you know that I love hosting meet and greets afterwards. So there will be one today as well. This is more of a casual hangout for us. We'll have a much more relaxed conversation, take our topic deeper. You're welcome to stay and join us. We generally stay for about 20 minutes or so. So this session is being recorded and a replay will be sent to you and to everyone who registered and couldn't make it today. So for you who's listening at home to this recording, I encourage you to do more than just listen. Pick up a journal book, do the work with us. Now, for those of you who don't know who I am, there's a few new faces here. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Peleg Top, and the work I do in the world evolves really around one thing. It evolves around love. Love has been a guiding principle of my work and shows up in every interaction I have with people. I've learned to train my heart to hold space for those who are seeking support and guidance, and trained my heart to inform me and guide me in my life's smallest choices and greatest decisions. My role in your life as your mentor today is to inform you, to inspire you, and to invite you, inform you and teach you something new, something, a new tool, a new distinction, a new idea that can support the transition and the space you're in your life right now. Uh, Hopefully, inspire you to take some action, and then invite you to go deeper on your journey, in this work if you are ready. My mission is to activate love in everyone here today. That's my mission in life. So thank you for the opportunity to meet love once again, and go on this little journey together. All right. So uh, let's begin. If you brought a candle, now's the time to take it out. Get it ready. Use this candle as an anchor to get present. Keep your gaze on the flame. Slow your breath. As we gather in this space, let our hearts be drawn together by the warmth of this flame. As we light this candle, let it be a beacon of the creative fire that dwells within us. May this light remind us of our inner strength, our boundless imagination, our shared journey towards growth and discovery. May this light ignite a spark of inspiration, illuminating the path that we walk together, even as we are apart. And in the glow of this flame, let us find unity and hope and courage to bring our dreams to life. Here's to the creative free spirit in all of us. May it flourish, guide us, and light our way. Now do me a favor and take a deep breath in, a deep breath out. Let it all settle in. And go ahead and close your eyes just for a moment and stay here with me. Start bringing all your attention and all your awareness to the crown of your head, down into your forehead, space between your eyes, dropping that attention and awareness to your ears, your nose, your mouth, your jaw. Just drop your jaw and draw that attention to your throat, to your shoulders, to your arms. Let your attention slowly scan your body down, down, down. And as you're scanning your body, just allow yourself to relax. Take your awareness all the way down your body, your stomach, your hips, your knees, your feet, all the way to your toes. And when you get to your feet, bring all your attention to the soles of your feet and relax them. From this space, take a deep breath in and sigh it out. Just let go. Allow your heart to be present, to be open, to receive divine love that's here for you. Just be in that space with yourself. See if you can connect to the warmth of love, to the warmth of the present moment. And notice that right now, you're okay. Right now, you're good. Right now is all you have. So let's savor this moment together in this gathering, this group that is very unique. It will never coexist in the same format again as we've gathered here today. So imagine all of us sitting in a room together, sharing a space. When it feels right, go ahead and flutter your eyes open, take in the space around you. Beautiful. I've always been fascinated with transitions, and in the last decade or so, I've spent an unusual amount of time studying and understanding the nature of going through transitions. I've learned that transitions are an incredibly emotional experience that we aren't trained or prepared to meet in a graceful and loving way. Over the last 20 years or so, I've experienced big transitions. I've experienced transitions into a new career. I've transitioned into a marriage, and then I've transitioned out of a marriage. I've taken 2 year travel sabbatical that required its own transition in and out of that space. I've sold a house. I bought a house. I moved my life from the concrete jungle of the big city to the stillness of the desert. So life's transitions are always happening. There are opportunities for us to get to really know who we are. Transitions can be subtle or they can shake us to our core. And the one thing I know for sure is that a time of transition can also be a fertile ground for changes, not only on the outside world, but also in your inner world. Transitions open up a space for us to look inwards, to re examine ourselves, to heal some of the old wounds that may still be bleeding and we don't even realize that they're bleeding, and to grow and become the person that we really want to become. A couple of years ago, I saw a brilliant TED talk by a teacher named Bruce Feiler. His talk, if you're getting my newsletter, I'm going to send it out tomorrow. You'll be in your inbox, but you may want to write this down. This talk is called The Secret to Mastering Life's Biggest Transition. And um, this talk really inspired me to go deeper with him and study and learn from his years of research on the topic of change and transition. And what Bruce discovered is where I want us to begin our work today. In his research, Bruce identified 3 stages or acts that represent the emotional and psychological journey that we go through when we face significant changes. Now, this framework can apply to different types of transitions like career changes or relationship changes or relocating to a new place or even coping with grief and loss. So I'm curious. I'm curious about this. And my curiosity is what moves me forward. So I'm inviting you to share in the chat room right now. How would you name this season of transition for you if you are in one? What what is the transition that you are meeting yourself in? Is it a career change? Is it a relationship change? Is it give us a bit of an idea of how would you identify or have you identified this this type of transition and change that you are in or that you're about to go to. So uh, take a moment to think about that and put that in the chat. Yeah, okay. Career change, identity, midlife awakening, grief due to loss, career change, midlife crisis, from career to career, midlife, career change. A lot of career changes is in the room today. End of a long estrangement. Wow, it's powerful. Next chapter, subtle change in direction, rebuilding. Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. Good. You're in the right place. So I want to introduce you to these stages. Let me say that again. I want to introduce you to the three stages that Bruce identified and use these stages for our first deep dive today. So this will be a good time to get your notebook ready because you're going to be wanting to take notes. And the thing to remember about these three stages is that they're not always linear. They don't always go in this order. And what I'd like you to pay attention to is try to identify which one of these three stages do you feel like you are most in right now. Sometimes you may actually be in two of these stages simultaneously. You may be coming out of one and entering into one. So um, see where you see yourself in here. So the first stage, stage one, act one, is called the long goodbye. The long goodbye is where we begin to acknowledge and process the end of a certain chapter in our life. This stage is full of emotions. Um, those emotions can look like denial, sadness, anger, confusion, joy. You may experience a sense of loss of what's being left behind, um, even if the change is ultimately for the better. This is a really great time to reflect on your experiences, reflect on your identity, on the roles that you play, on the expectations that you will no longer be a part of anybody's life. And the key to navigating this stage is acceptance and allowing yourself to grieve for what is being lost and recognizing it as a necessary step towards moving forward. The second stage, the second stage is called the messy middle. And it's not called messy for a reason. It's the phase where the old has that we left behind um, has been left behind, and the new has not yet fully taken shape. It is this liminal space. It's between the familiar and the unknown. And this is a stage where we often encounter a lot of confusion and doubt and questioning. We may struggle with a sense of self, not knowing who you are in the absence of the role or the identity that you left behind. This is a time of experimentation, of making mistakes, of trying new things, of learning and gradually getting clarity. And the messy middle requires patience and resilience and the willingness to embrace the unknown as a crucial part of the transition process. This is a stage where I often meet most of my students on their journey. It's their liminal space, it's their messy middle. It's the stage where people often begin to seek help and guidance. It's where they're most open to letting go of trying to control the outcome of what's next and begin to learn to trust the unknown. This is the stage where we have an opportunity to dive deep into ourselves and to get to know who we are better than ever. So we have the long goodbye and the messy middle. And the third stage of transition is called the new beginning. And this is where we start to see the fruits of our labor and we begin to embrace our new identity and the changes that we've gone through. This stage has a renewed sense of purpose, of clarity, of optimism. You start to establish new routines, new rituals, you form new relationships, and you begin to be fully engaged with your new reality. This is a stage that is a time for growth. It's an exciting stage for the future, and this stage really requires an open heart and an open mind and courage. Courage to step into the unknown with confidence. And you know that confidence, where does that come from? That confidence ultimately comes from trust, trusting in ourselves, trusting that we have what it takes to get through the other side of whatever it is that we're in right now. Now, each one of us gravitates to a stage that we're best at in our transition. It's Bruce calls it a transition superpower. And each one of us has a strength in one of these three stages, and each one of us may get bogged down in one of these stages. Um, Bruce calls them our transition kryptonite. So here's what I'd like you to do next. I'd like you to, now that you're aware of these three stages, I want you to take about 3 minutes and write about two things. Okay. First, identify which stage are you identifying yourself in of these three stages, right? Identify which it is. And then identify which is your superpower and which is your kryptonite. Like in which stage do you feel I got this? And which stage do you feel kind of pretty lost in? Okay, so 3 minutes, reflect on that, and we'll be back on the other side. Uh, going to take about 1 more minute. All right, good work, everyone. Now, I want to remind you that you've already experienced change and transitions in your life. We all have, and we all have managed to get through them. So, I'd like you to take a few minutes now and identify what has gotten you through change and transition before. What is inside of you? What are your traits that have supported you? So, I want to invite you to take a couple of minutes to think about those traits, to recognize them. So, what I'm going to show you is here's a list of some traits just to get you kind of bring that up on screen. Okay, so here are some list of traits that that we all carry and oftentimes tend to forget. So I want you to look at this list and see if you can identify anything on this list that speaks true to you. And if there's anything that isn't on this list that you want to add, please identify that and also write that down. So in this list, the first, I would say the first six traits are the ones that have been identified as um, the the strongest traits to help us through transition. So I really invite you to look at those first six in particular before you look at the rest of the list and identify that in yourself. Connect to that part of yourself. Okay. And write that down. Here's what I have to support me in my transitions. Beautiful. So, as you can see, you have a lot more going for you than you realized in this space of transition, right? It's easy to remember the traits that we've developed and what we have inside of us that can support us. So, what I invite you to do now is to share those insights with a fellow Voyager in this call. Share which stage you are meeting yourself in first, and then share, is this stage your weakness or is this stage your kryptonite? Have you identified that? And then share a little bit of what you've identified that you know you can rely on. So here we go. I'll see you in about 15 to 20 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. Oh my gosh, so many smiles. I love it. I love it. Great work, everyone. So I'd like to invite a couple of you who are willing to share with us what was this experience was like, what any insights that you might have gained from this experience. All right, Rebecca, where are you? Let me make sure I see you on the screen. Here you go. Rebecca.
Well, I've already said how much fun it was. It was really it was very interesting learning about the others. And I was in the room with three, which was great because we had a real conversation amongst the three of us, in addition to each presenting our own perspective.
Beautiful.
Um, all three of us were kind of stuck in the messy middle as well, but we both also were coming off of past, what was the first one called? The Long Goodbye.
Goodbye.
And all entering into the new beginning. So, but we were really still had our feet in the messy middle. I certainly do. So,
Any insights that you've gotten from this conversation that you didn't have before?
um, insights were essentially that we all go through the different things at different rates of speed. And we all focus on our strengths, as you were kind of indicating. And that's what we really base it on, and reflect from there to go forward. And each of these kinds of programs help us take a step at a time.
Yes, absolutely. Being here today in this session is a step. It's a step because it gets us more connected to where we're at, to the present moment. It helps
Right.
us reflect. It helps us calm down, knowing that, okay, I'm in this phase right now. I'm in this stage, and it's okay. And I don't know how long it would last. It's a different timeline for everyone. So it's
Mhm.
really good insight. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Rebecca.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
I see Gulen's hand is up. Go ahead and unmute yourself, darling.
Hi everyone. Well, I enjoyed that step as well. It was funny the match you made. It's like we do the same work, we're in the same conundrum. That was serendipity, right? Perfect. And after all this, I'm in the messy middle with a feeling that it's a new beginning. But at the same time, there's still some crumble from the long goodbyes.
Sure.
So it's a combo, a bit of everything. So each day is a feeling of the one and the two or the three. So that's fine. You have to let go and go in it, because the more you go in it, the more it goes away. That's the way I live. You got to face it, it goes away.
Yeah, you've identified something really powerful. Sometimes we can be in all three phases at the same time. We're still might be saying goodbye to something in our old life, and we're still in this messy middle of not really knowing what's next. So we try different things and we explore, and we may have got an idea of which direction we want to head. So there's a glimpse of a possible new beginning, but we're not there yet. We're not fully immersed in that part, and it's really important to acknowledge, here's where I'm at, and here's where I um Here's a way that I can support myself today in this process of where I'm at. So perhaps I need to, if I'm feeling a little anxious or feeling a little worried, all I got to do sometimes is just remind myself of the traits and the strengths that I have that can move me forward, that can heal me, that can support me. So maybe I need to adapt to something new if it's a strength of mine. Maybe I can be curious about something else. Maybe that's a strength of mine. So that's a really powerful share. Thank you for acknowledging that. Beautiful. I want to move on, and at this time, I want to invite our panel of guests to chime in and share in this conversation from their experience of navigating through transition. So first, I'd like you to meet Leanne Hutter. She is a graduate of the class of 2022 of the Creative High Growth Program, and has been going through her own professional transition that's been in process now for about 2-3 years. And amongst other things, Leanne is she's creating in her life right now. She's also a member of the Creative High Growth team as a supporting mentor. So welcome, Leanne. Hello.
Hello.
And then second, help me welcome Erickson Proper. Erickson was the first student who went through the Creative High Growth process, and in a way, he helped shape the journey that I now take people on. He's also part of the Creative High Growth support team, and I'll let him tell more of his story when in a minute. So I'm curious to ask you guys first, which stage are you meeting yourself in these days? So Leanne, why don't you go first?
Mm-hmm. I'm meeting myself in a new beginning after a very messy and long middle and a painful long goodbye. So that's where I'm at right now. Yeah.
Wow. How about you, Erickson? Where are you meeting yourself?
When I really honestly look at that question, I'm in the new beginning, but I've got a serious messy middle hangover that I'm working with. But it's quite all right. It's adding fuel to the new beginning.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm curious to ask you guys, how did you feel in the beginning of this transition? And maybe you can tell us about a little bit about what you transitioned from and into in this particular moment. Leanne?
Sure. Let's see. I think my transition began when I was at a moment where I had to decide about a pretty big career decision, actually. I had been working for an amazing company for 10 years and really loving my job, really loving the people that I worked with. But when I hit my 10-year anniversary, I took a step back and I reflected. And I felt really grateful to have been part of so much progress and so many wonderful collaborations. But when you're at a place for a long time, you get to witness and be part of progress, but you also get to come up against challenges that sometimes are really beyond your influence and control. And as a leader in this company, I felt as if some of those challenges I had really given my best shot to. And I was starting to feel complete. I felt like I had given all that I could give. I had learned all that I could learn. I had taught that all I could teach. And I felt ready for something different. I didn't know what it was, but I knew that it was time for me to leave. So that was really the beginning of my long goodbye.
And you left your job before you had anything else lined up. You went into a complete unknown space, right?
I did. There were some opportunities that were presenting itself, thankfully, but I just did not feel ready to say yes to them. And what I chose instead was something pretty powerful. you know, going from being so busy and engaged and involved in this, you know, really wonderful but intense job. And stepping away from that was like my life went into a blackout. It was if I unplugged from a source of energy that was fueling my life, and it was dark and it was quiet and is a little lonely too, honestly. Yeah.
I want to acknowledge you for having the courage to actually um, consciously leave the job, the career, um, and and step into an unknown space. I mean, that was a commendable act of self-love, which I'm not sure if you saw at the time, as you reflect back on your journey, but I see it as a courageous act of self-love.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, kind of talking a little bit about the values, you know, one of my core values is self-worth. And what I had realized when I stepped away from this role in this company was that I had defined so much of my self-worth through that role and company. And when you make a transition and you move away from something that's so powerful, and it fills up so much of your mind and your body and your whole self. And I thought to myself, well, I was a leader. Am I a leader now? I'm not leading anyone. It's just me. And it really sent me into a space of really needing to kind of question and explore, like, who am I now? What is my identity now that I have made this change? And that was really the beginning of my messy middle. I entered with that big question, who am I?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, beautiful. How about you, Erickson? You can share a little bit about where did you come from and what are you transitioning to, and maybe also help us get in touch with that moment that kind of defined the beginning of this transition for you.
Where I started is it started way back when. And I think what I can best say about this journey is kind of reclaiming a calling that I had. Speaking to Leanne about the value, it's just like my one of my chief values is compassion. But I discovered in beginning to do this work that I was compassionate to everyone else but me. I never intended to step into an almost 30-year career in graphic design. That I wanted to be a priest when I was a boy. I wanted to serve people in being a spiritual leader. But I had to make the tough decision back in the 80s to leave seminary because from their point of view, I was not compatible because of my sexuality. So I thought that that calling was dead. Um, Forward to about 2018, universe decided to take me out with a spinal injury. And after that, I made the acquaintance of Peleg, who was offering a session like this about what do you do after 50 if you're creative. I'm like, oh, that is so me. I do this. And from the beginning of that, it kind of seeped in that, oh, I've been doing all this, I'm good at it, but this really isn't what I thought I should be doing. This isn't the way that I want to leave my mark on the world. I don't know what to do with this. And so just being in conversation and deciding to do the 100 days cracked that door wide open. So the last 5 years has been an exploration of what is it to tap back into this calling? What is this attractor? And for me, it's just like going from compassion to this deep awareness of all I really want to do is I don't want to solve other people's problems anymore. I want to bring people into relationship with their inner wisdom so that they can begin by being aware and compassionate with themselves that we're not problems to be solved, we're mysteries coming into form. And for me, once I got that and began to see that juice from doing this deep inner work in myself, but for me, there's another point to that. At some point, the reason my messy middle has been so long is that, and there was something that you said, Peleg, is like, can the journey that you're on be in support of to nourish the next stop? And that really hit home. It's just like, so, but what really hit me is being on retreat in January, I made the firm commitment that it's no longer time to play. I'm in my late 50s. And if I don't decide to be compassionate to myself and do the work that I really want to do, when am I going to do it? Am I going to wait to my deathbed? Because not very effective. So, and I realized that there's this beautiful dance in commitment between discipline and devotion. And they're both sides of the coin. And once I really began to get that, and with the support of community and beginning to get validation that from some of the things that people, I had a design client the other day basically say, oh, something you said to me 5 years ago, I can't get out of my mind. We need to talk. And I'm like, well, I wasn't thinking about doing coaching. I wasn't thinking about teaching, but well, damn universe, thank you. And that's really helped fuel that fire. It's like, oh, I not only can I make a mark in the world, I've already started. And if I'm compassionate, I will own that, not out of pride, but oh my God, there's a big difference between being of service to someone and being a people pleaser. This is what service looks like. What I was doing in my graphic design is people pleasing. And there's a huge difference. And now it's just like, even when I bring with problem solving in graphic design, I bring a coach's attitude to it. It's a collaborative journey. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm at.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm curious to ask you guys, how did you manage yourself during the tough parts of the messy middle? You know, there's a lot of uncertainty and fear, and it's an emotional roller coaster, right? We've all been there. I'm curious to hear from you. Maybe one or two things that you can share with everyone here is, what are some of the things that supported you along the way that you've learned, and that you may even still practice in your life to a degree that helps you ultimately get in alignment with your truth? It's a big question, I know.
Well, for me, it was about my messy middle was my sabbatical and how I spent that time. At first, it was honestly just giving myself permission to rest. And I felt guilty about that at first, but I said, you know, this is what I need to do. So
And what did rest look like for Leanne? I'm curious.
What rest looked like, haha, it was really hard. I I'm a very go person. And so rest was about giving myself permission to slow down and to start exploring, kind of looking, instead of looking outside all the time, looking inside. So one of the things that I did actually was I started journaling. I've journaled on and off through the years, but I picked up a journal again and I started writing. And it was really cathartic. It was really helpful. But I will say that I ultimately felt like I wanted or craved like the support and the inspiration of others, of others going on this journey. Like, I'm so fortunate to have had, you know, loving friends and family who were supportive, but they weren't necessarily going through what I was going through.
Couldn't relate, right?
Yeah, they could empathize, but maybe couldn't
Right.
relate.
Yeah.
And so I was definitely seeking that sense of community. Also, I'm a collaborator. I love being around other people and collaborating with other people. And I'm like, oh, you know, when I talked about unplugging from that energy, I'm like, oh, I want to,
Yeah.
I just want to feel that sense of connection again.
Yeah.
And honestly, the Creative High Growth program came at a really good time for me because that was an opportunity to plug into that energy, to kind of turn on that energy light in myself, and to be in community with others going through a similar journey. And everybody's journey was different and unique in their own way, but similar in the sense that we were in the messy middle. We're all in the messy middle together. So that was really powerful for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Journaling is a powerful tool. I mean, we use journaling every day inside of our process, and I found it to be a cathartic tool. It's my daily ritual. I can't start my day without meeting myself first in the journal book. Erickson, how about you?
A couple things. The biggest, and I have to agree with Leanne that doing the creative high growth journey was really the beginning of the deep work, and it gave me a space and a framework to really dive deep. And one of the places I had to really dive deep is, okay, I'm a man, I'm in my 50s, I'm gay. I had never been taught how to relate to my emotions. I had dealt with depression most of my life. And I've come to the point now to realize that for me, and this, I'm not a doctor and I'm not playing one, but for my personal experience and for the experience with a lot of people I meet, is that depression comes from, it's basically emotional constipation, that we don't know how to metabolize our emotions properly and they get trapped inside of us. And what really brought it in is I went through a rough patch in my marriage and went to therapy, and she's like, you two are the easiest I've ever dealt with, because in 4 sessions we can get this done. But here's the big thing: look at each other in the eye, talk, and listen. And Eric, get in touch with your emotions. That would serve you well. There's like that really hit home. So for me, it's been a really deep dive, and it's been, I'm not going to say it's been easy. It has been really, really, really tough for me. But oh my God, now that I'm there, now that I've been doing the work, my world has done a 180. If you're not in touch with your emotions run your world.
Yeah.
And what I was noticing is the deep repression came out as, instead of expressing my emotions and working with them to metabolize them, I would spray them all over everybody, or I would pull myself out of community and relationship.
Yeah.
Because I said to my partner once, it's like, I can't tell you how I feel because I don't know how I feel.
Yeah.
And then becoming aware enough and vulnerable enough to ask for help. That was a hard one for me, is to ask someone for help, because I've always been, I got to rely on me because no one else is going to be there for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of bullshit thinking in that.
Yeah.
So, but to be able to not only now be able to feel what I'm feeling, but to name it, has just been a revelation and so freeing. And the practice of creativity, of really tapping into that creative voice that's uniquely my own, instead of problem solving for other people through visual works.
Yeah.
To allow the vocabulary and symbolism of my inner world to express itself, and for me to honor it with compassion and love.
Yeah.
That's what finally broke me open to allow the beauty of my inner world to come out.
Yeah. I have witnessed you, that 180 that you're talking about that you've done. Um, I've witnessed and continue to witness that 180 happening in your inner world more than in your outer world first. There's a shift and a change in the way that you have been showing up to yourself and then showing up to the world as a result of that I think is an extension of the inner work that you've done. And for both of you, Leanne and Erickson, I love witnessing your creativity in this process, and the way that you've approached this shift, this change, this transition with giving yourself permission to truly tap into that creative voice, that authentic voice,
Mhm.
not for the sake of solving somebody else's problem, but for the sake of expressing yourself in the world. And ultimately, I think all of us who are here on this call, have have one thing in common that I'm pretty certain of, is that we all have a desire to express something, and that that thing that we want to express is unique to who we are,
Mhm.
and the world needs that particular form of self-expression that you bring to the table. So the invitation here is to get in touch with that voice, to nourish that voice, to to cultivate that voice, to meet that voice with love and curiosity and no judgment, and be curious enough to ask, I wonder what I have to say. I wonder what it is that I really care about. And giving ourselves enough space and time to explore the answer to that question. Yeah. So thank you for your shares. Um, Proud of you guys. Um, let's move on. Let's move on. There's one more exercise that I want us to do before we wrap up for today, and that exercise has to do with the next segment that I'd like us to look at is our values. So let's move to the last part of our session and dive into that topic that I believe we don't talk about enough, and that's our values. Over the last 20 years of working with hundreds of people in this coaching capacity, whenever I meet a new client or student that is seeking guidance or direction and are ready to do the inner work on themselves, generally they are operating from some type of a fear-based mindset. And the fear is somewhat conscious, but mostly unconscious. And when we operate from that place of fear, it's really easy for us to forget what matters most to us. It's easy for us to forget our values. So, knowing our values, the ones that you are operating from and strive to live into, it's a crucial step in creating yourself, creating what's next for you. So, when your actions and decisions align with your values, you live into a space of integrity and you experience a peace of mind because you know that you're making the right choice and you're doing the right thing. And when you act in a way that goes against your values, you can feel unhappy about yourself and doubt the decisions that you're making. Now, different people have different values depending on many factors. We develop our values from our life's experience, from the people who raise us. They model certain values, and sometimes we even develop values that go against the ones that were modeled to us as a form of rebellion. Our values are the thing that you believe that is most important in the way that you live and work. They determine our priorities, and deep down, they're probably the measure that you use to tell if your life is turning out the way you want it to. So, one thing that I've learned from the experiment that I called my life is that our values change as we grow and age. The things that were important to me in my 20s and in my 30s are different from what's important for me today in my 50s. And as I evolved, my values evolve. Now, even though our values are the basic software of our inner operating system, we often don't have clarity on what they are, and we can find ourselves stuck in life not knowing what to do. So, knowing our values, getting in touch with our values, can inform us in these areas of our life that are not working. Look at your life as a big picture. Areas that are not working in your life and in your relationship are most likely not working because you are not um, you're not addressing your values. You're not working from your values. You're going against your values, and they create friction. So Today, I want to invite you to do a creative high growth exercise that can help you identify your values. And this is an exercise that I like to often do at least once a year. It helps me get clear on what my values are right now. In other words, what are the most important things for me right now that I need to pay attention to? So by the end of this exercise, you may have a clear list of your top values, and they can begin to serve you as a foundation to creating whatever it is you want to create in your life. So the one thing that I want you to remember is that opportunities will come to you, ideas will come to you. The question you want to ask yourself is, does this opportunity align with my values? Does this opportunity align with my values? So we're going to identify two sets of values, your life values and your operational values. I'm going to bring those to the screen. Have your journal book ready. Here we go, values. Cool. Okay. So we're going to identify two sets of values, your life values and your operational values. Your life values are the lifelong, um, long-term, ultimate operational values. It's what you want out of life. It's when these values are compromised, life becomes dissatisfying. Now, your operational values are more about your behavior, how you behave to attain the life values, and how they are carried out in your day-to-day activities. So we're going to look at your values. And what I'm going to ask you to do first is um, pick from this operational values in the screen, take a look at these values and pick 6 values, okay? 6 values that are important to you right now in your life. I'm going to give you just a couple of minutes to review this worksheet. What matters to you right now in your life from these values? Okay, pick 6, your top 6. Yeah, this is where you are right now in your life. What's most important to you? What are the operational values that you feel rise to the top? I know it's a bit of a hard question to ask you because everything on this list we can relate to some degree, right? So I'm asking you to really listen to your heart, right? See what speaks to your heart at this moment when you look at this list of operational values. Okay. Don't overthink it. Feel it. Don't overthink it. Feel it. Okay. We'll give you a few more seconds to look at this. I want this to be a very intuitive experience for you. So don't overthink it. Just feel it. Okay. So now that you've gotten your 6 operational values in order, you wrote them down in your journal book, we're going to move on to the second set of values, which is your life values. Your life values are long-term, ultimate aspirations. It's what you want out of life. It's when these values get compromised that life becomes really challenging. So pick 6 from this list that are really important to you right now in your stage of life, whatever stage you're in. Okay. Don't think it, feel it. Okay. Take another minute. This shouldn't be too hard. It's a fairly like it's a strong hit, yes or no, that you feel. Yes or no. Okay, now have your 6 life values. Identify those. Okay. So now that you've identified 6 operational values and 6 life values, what I'd like you to do is, of this list of 6 values in each camp, I want you to narrow it down to 3 from each list. So you'll end up with 6. Okay, now we're prioritizing. Out of the first 6, which 3 are most important? And then out of the second 6, which 3 are most important? Circle them. Okay. Now that you've picked your top 6, I want you to keep narrowing it down. I want you to narrow it down to 2. Which 2 rise up to the surface, rise up to the top? You can pick one from each side. And now that you have 2 that you've picked, I want to give you some homework. I want to give you an opportunity to sit with these values and journal about them for a bit, and ask yourself why this value is important to you. So if one of your values was freedom, why is freedom important to you? Begin to journal. Freedom is important to me because that's your prompt. Get in touch with that value. Now, if you want to take it even deeper, use all 6 or all 12. Use one a day for the next 12 days. Connect with that value. Explore that value. Unpack that value. Get in touch with it. Feel it. So I'd love to open the floor up for a couple of you who haven't shared yet to express and let us hear what are the couple of values that that came up for you that that you've identified. Could be that surprised you as well, that these are the values that rose to the surface. Anybody care to share? Maybe someone we haven't heard from yet. Give me a hand up. Gladys. Go ahead, Gladys.
Hi, my top 2 are creativity and health. Those are my top 2 from the list of 6 on each side.
Anything you'd like to share about those?
I think that's creativity has always been part of my life, and I feel like I breathe creativity. I feel like I am creativity, and I'm willing to let go everything else just so I can continue to be creative. Although I don't have to let go of anything. I think that's just something in my head that I have, that I have to choose, you know. In my health, I had some health issues last year, and I realized that it's so important to eat well and move and exercise, because that allows me to enjoy my creative life a lot more than if I'm sick and not able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else would like to share a couple of their values and what they mean to them? All right. Rachi.
I'll go. Okay. So the life value of spirituality, that was a very clear one that rose up to the very top for me, because I'm really, really, really all about like finding that inner transformation within. And I've been on this journey for the last 6, 7 years already, and there's so much more to learn. What I found interesting though, that the second one that rose up to the top from the one from the operational values was humor. And I find that, I don't think I have paid attention to humor in my life. And it's something that I really want to pay attention to, and I really
I
want to
love it.
inculcate more of.
Yeah.
So that was like a big surprise for me. Like I put a big question mark on it when I went through the exercise, the first
Yeah.
one, pull up the top 10. And by the time I came to the end, I was like, you know what? At this point in time, this is my, in my top two. This is my second like thing. It's my top operational value that I want to emphasize. Thank you for bringing this awareness.
Yeah, this is great. I love that humor rose to the top for you. I always say, when there's laughter, there's love. So pursuing more humor and more lightheartedness in your life is it's a powerful value. It's become a very important value for me in my relationships. Um, based on that idea, when there's laughter, there's love. I look to be in relationships now. When I cultivate relationships, is there laughter between it? Is there organic, natural laughter that is happening there between us? And to me, that's an indication that there's flow. That this is good. This is natural. This is healthy. So it's a great value to explore. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Albert, you have your hand up. What do you have to share with us? What did you discover?
Peleg, thank you so much for the session. That's my first time here. And thank
Welcome.
you, Liam, for sharing the session so I know the existence of this great conversations, right? I was looking at this exercise. My lifelong one, I pick freedom. The operational, I pick drive, right? Freedom is obvious. I feel like world is such a beautiful place. We so much to explore, so much to learn from, so much to be soaking, so much to be diving, right? And just kind of like look forward to all these types of exploration. Also, it's a mirror reflection. I was struggling to see if I pick freedom, am I not free right now at this current moment, right? Is there anything that let me feel I'm not free, right? So that is a interesting thought exercise by itself, right? And even the drive is interesting, right? So the people who know me. I'm a very passionate person. I'm fueled by passion, right? I'm just kind of like a fireball of energies, all those types. But last September, there is a instance happens. I have been diagnosed with some chronic kidney disease, right? It's kind of serious. If I'm not careful, I will be in dialysis in just a few years, right? And was like definitely kind of hack my way around to change my diet, change my exercise, change the way I sleep, change the way I work, change my relationships. But I was questioning, it's like if it's my drive, is my drive put me into this place? It's like I add too much pressure to me. Do I
Yeah.
always kind of like have the fires going on that
Yeah.
keep me late in the night, wake up in the morning, always have high pressure to me? But it's interesting. I going through that 4 months cycles. I am in my new beginnings right now. I have find ways to find balance and reinventing myself a little bit. And I'm looking at my operational value. I still pick drive, right? So it's still me. I find a new balance to move forward, and I still glad I picked drive because that is who I am, right? So it's not like giving up. It's kind of like discarding my values, but finding new ways to looking at who I am, right? So I
That's
really
beautiful.
appreciate that. I appreciate the exercise.
That's beautiful, Albert. Yeah, you've touched upon a really important um, element in our um, understanding our values is that sometimes we will have a value that's still really important to us, but our life circumstance, our health, whatever is happening, um, no longer supports the old way of being that we have lived that value into our life. So even though drive may be something that's very important to you, um, this is an opportunity to recreate, to approach that value differently, to
Calibrate. Yeah.
to not only calibrate, to also look at the rest of your values, right? Look at all the values that you picked. Do they support each other, right? So if one of my values is drive and also one of my values is freedom, I want to make sure that there's no conflict there because my pursuit for freedom may increase my drive, which will influence my well-being and my health. So I need to begin to approach how I live these values a little differently. So this is why it's really important to do this exercise because ultimately the decisions that you want to make as far as what's next for you, right? The values is going to be the engine that gives you the motivation and the inspiration to move that forward. And you want to make sure that you are tapping into that value in a healthy way. So thank you
Exactly.
for sharing
Exactly.
that was
Thank you.
really beautiful. Anyone else before we move on? One last share for the day. Going once, going twice. Oh, Liz. Hi, Liz. Welcome back. Go ahead and unmute yourself, dear.
Thank you, Peleg. The two that came to mind immediately for me were forgiveness and spirituality. And forgiveness is really how I have navigated through the tragedies and all the transitions in my life before. Sometimes consciously and sometimes unconsciously. 30 years ago, my parents were killed in a car accident. And the way I healed from that was to forgive the driver. Just a year ago, my stepson was murdered. I'm still healing from that, but I have forgiven his murderer, who will likely never be captured or brought to justice. I also am forgiving the toxic work environment I experienced as an accountant, because I realized that those leaders did not know any better. That was the model that they thought was best. And so what I'm trying to do now is create a better work culture for accountants, to bring out the ideas that will make it better for everyone in that world. And so that is really how I move through the world. It's also self-forgiveness. You know, when I can't perform because of health or emotion or depression or whatever it is, I say, I just can't do it. I have to step back and take care of me and what I need most at this moment. So that really is how I operate.
Thank you. I feel for your loss, and I acknowledge your awareness of how forgiveness is a path of growth and a path of healing. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Good work. Good work.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. We've come to the pretty much the end of our session. And before we close and bring back the bells to help us bookmark this experience and go back into our lives, um, I want to share with you a few words about the creative high growth journey. If some of you have been considering or thinking about stepping into that space, I encourage you to think a little harder now, because our next process begins on April 20th. We have a couple of people who've gone through this process on this call already. And the one thing I can tell you about this process is it relates to our conversation today, is that it was really created with an intention to serve people who are at a crossroads. Because what I found in my work over the years was that ultimate um, the ultimate solution, the ultimate way to um, move through a challenging time in our lives, the best way to to grow and to create the life that we want to create for ourselves, is to really get to know who we are, to come back home, to go inward. And the process that I've created takes you on a journey of exploring that inner landscape of who you are through many tools that I've collected for decades. Um, we use a lot of writing. We use a lot of um, art making every day. Art is a tool that we use in this process. We create from a very intuitive, raw space that you, and in that process, um, something really amazing happens, where something new begins to emerge, because we're going deep inward into our inner life and begin to get in touch with that creative, authentic voice that we have, and learn how to use that part of ourselves as a creation tool. Now, the process is not easy work. It's 100 consecutive days that we spent together. It is designed to disrupt your life. It's designed to shake you up a little bit. It's designed to teach you new tools and new practices and new rituals of ways that you can support yourself and meet yourself. It helps you develop a ritual for yourself that is a place that you always know that you can go and meet yourself when you are struggling, or when you are even not even struggling, but to stay consistently connected and aligned to your truth. And I often find that people who go through this process experience a bit of an awakening in as far as who they really are. It's an incredibly motivating space to be, and there's a lot of momentum behind it, and it's a good launching pad to whatever the next step is for you that you maybe have been a little bit hesitant on taking. Helps you get a lot of clarity. So this is the time to explore if this program is right for you. And I would say that the first step that you want to do in exploring this is test it out. Give it an experiment. Give it a shot. I'm going to put in the chat room a link. If you haven't downloaded it already, it's on my website. You can go and download a sample session. It'll give you an introduction to the process. It'll give you an idea of what it feels like to be in that space together. It's an audio recorded 60-minute session. I'll invite you to download it, take yourself somewhere quiet, take a pair of headphones and a journal book and maybe some art supplies, and go on this mini journey with me to help you just begin to get some clarity around what's possible for you and who you are. And if you feel really that, okay, this work feels meaningful to me and I want to keep going deeper, you can reach out and we can have a conversation and see what this process could do for you in your life. So thank you for being on this call. This is all I'm going to say about the process. This is the entire sales pitch of this entire this entire webinar. I am committed to creating as many of these experiences for us and help grow this community. What I find is that there's power in these gatherings, there's power in this community. We have some plans of doing some in-person experiences later down the road, but for now, um, keep showing up, keep doing the work. So, as a reminder, I'll stay on for a few minutes after this call to meet and greet, to say hello, to answer any questions you have about this work. And until we meet again, let's invite our precious bells to help us wrap this space up. Yeah. Take a minute to take a breath. Allow me to share the closing prayer for you to take for the rest of your day. Divine love, allow me to give with complete ease and abundance, knowing that you are the unlimited source of all. Let me be an easy, open conduit for your prosperity. Let me trust that my own needs are always met in amazing ways, and that it's safe to give in the world as freely as my heart guides me. And equally, let me feel widely open to receiving. May I know my own value, beauty, and worthiness without question. Let me allow others the supreme pleasure of giving to me, and may I feel worthy to receive in every possible way. Divine love, change me into one who can fully love, fully forgive, and fully accept myself so I may carry love without restriction. Let everything that needs to go, go, and let everything that needs to come, come. I am utterly your own. You are me, and I am you, and we are one. And all is well, and all is full of love. I want to acknowledge you for being here today, for showing up for yourself, for stepping into a possibly an uncomfortable space, for exploring what's calling you, to assess, to discern, to reflect. I encourage you to continue this work on your own, to keep meeting yourself, to keep getting to know who you are. There is a treasure chest inside of you, an unlimited treasure chest, full of insights and wisdom. And we appreciate you bringing it into our community. Thank you, everyone. Be well, and I'll see you at our next gathering.